Ladies and gentlemen, independent Americans around the country and around the world, I have a very special Father's Day gift for all of you. A returning champion, our inaugural guest, the very first guest we ever had on this show, 284 episodes and 5 years ago. Finally, back on Independent Americans, the great and powerful Willie Geist is here.
Paul, that was 5 years ago? I can't believe that.
It was April 2019.
Wow. Wow. And that was the time you famously gave me the address to the Polish consulate. Was that what it was? Or something like that?
Yes. Very good memory.
That was a great, I'll never forget that. I had the address. I'm like, man, this does not look like a podcast studio. It's very ornate. And I walked in, opened the door, and there were a bunch of people in there trying to get their visas renewed and sitting in a waiting room. What is it? I'm looking for the Paul Reichhoff podcast. And they all just turned and stared at me blankly. I think this might be the wrong place.
Simpler days, my friend. Simpler days.
It was.
Right?
By the way, we were laughing before we started. I'm a little rusty on my COVID Zoom skills, trying to get this thing up and running. And I can't hear you. Do you hear me? The mic and the whole thing. But it all comes back. It's like riding a bike.
You look good. You sound good. You ride a bike very well. Nobody rides this kind of a bike better than you. And I mean, who's had a better 5 years since than you? Like Aaron Judge, maybe?
Judge, yeah.
Our friend Wes Moore, maybe? Who's had
Wes
a better
is doing
5
great.
years?
Wes is doing great. Jalen Brunson. I mean, we could go down the list if you want.
Yeah. But Brunson's really only had a good 2 years, right?
Okay.
3 years, maybe?
Okay.
Right? You 5 years. I mean, you got like Carol Burnett. And if I want to know like who the biggest stars are in the world, I watch your show to try to figure it out. And I feel like you give me that cultural competence and so much more. But seriously, man, I mean, I got to start by telling you how proud of you I am, how excited I am by all that you're doing. And part of what I want to talk to you about, how needed it is. It's sets such a good tone and a positive example for our kids. And as a father on Father's Day, you do it all the right way, man.
Well, thanks. That's nice of you to say. And it's been fun to watch you grow with your family too, and your beautiful wife. And, you know, like we've sort of shared behind the scenes this journey we've both been on since I've known you all these years of the kids are born and now they're playing baseball and now they're in football and all these things. And now I have a daughter she just finished her junior year in high school. She's gonna be a senior in high school, which I cannot believe. And it's such a cliche, but man, you blink and it goes. I mean, she's turning 17. My son's starting high school. In my mind, they're the little kids stepping up to the tee for t-ball the first time or going to a dance recital in their little outfit for the first time. And now they've got driver's license and boyfriend and they're on teams. And it's amazing how fast it goes, but it's been fun to kind of share these years with you over this last decade or so.
It's amazing and it's terrifying for me, right? As my boys are 8 and 5, but you consistently, this is why I wanted you on for Father's Day, because I try to have a special Father's Day episode every year, because you've given me so much fatherhood advice and you've just led by example. I remember you told me early on, and a couple of times you said, it keeps getting better. It keeps getting better. And it really did. Like one, I was like, wow, 1 is amazing. Then I get to 3 and now I'm at 8, like every phase is really amazing. And you've been great in guiding me through that, but you're also guiding America through this. You're a voice of reason and respect and poise. And, I had a Little League game last night. I'm rocking for downtown Little League for folks who are watching.
Strong.
They gave us the worst coaches shirts ever. We all look like lifeguards.
You do.
They're red, bright red, right?
Which is you can make a save if you need to. Yeah.
Which is not like dissimilar from being a Little League coach. Last night, there was a dust up with the coaches and a very aggressive parent who came on the field.
No.
Oh yeah. And it happens
for the 8-year-olds.
Yeah. Wow. And it was a scrimmage too. And at one point I remember saying like, guys, you're going to be on YouTube. You're going to be those dads if you take this any further. But I also remember the example we're setting, and you're setting that example. I want to get into that. I want to get your thoughts on the Yankees and a couple other things, but I can't gloss past a question.
That's my dog. Sorry. No. This chaos at all times. Okay.
What's the dog's name again?
Bronco. Yeah, that's Bronco. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Amazing. And
I had a Bronco. The car, and then we named our dog Bronco, and now we realize it's kind of weird. Like Like I like Broncos, but not like you would think, given that we named our dog Bronco, it just felt like a good, strong name, you know? So he's gone now. Forgive him. Sorry.
It's good. There's also a monster truck named Bronco. And I
Yeah.
understand that ending dogs' names with a vowel is a very good thing for dogs to be able to recognize their own names.
Right. Right.
Right.
Bronco's strong too. When you yell at him, you know, you get his attention.
All right. This is a question I ask of everybody. We've switched them up a little bit over the years. I'm not going to ask you the peeps questions and that stuff anymore, but I do ask, Willie, where are you and how are you?
I am currently sitting in my home in Westchester County, New York, in my wife's office. Anyone who knows me knows that my wife is far and away the most impressive person in our household. I think my kids would say that to you as well. So this is her office. I don't have an office per se. 30 Rock is my office, but she runs a couple of businesses. She just sold the company that she built. She created it like 8.5, 9 years ago. It's called Boombox Gifts. Just started as a gift, a 40th birthday gift to one of her friends. You can go online and see it. And she built it through COVID. It survived, and she hustled and worked so hard and finally sold it about 6 months ago. So that's anybody who's run a startup. I mean, this is a startup. A podcast is a startup. Like you're running a business, you're scrambling, you're hustling, knows that it's an everyday, middle of the night, all hours concern and a thing that occupies you and a joy, of course. But so she got to the point where she couldn't, based on what she had a great little team, but she wanted to make it bigger and just didn't have the resources to do that. So she found somebody who did and sold it to them. So this is where she kind of like created and ran this company at this very desk and had a million calls like this and made it all happen. So does that. And she has another company called True Geist, which is a branding firm that she started before Boombox. And now she's kind of back invested in doing that again. So I am in my wife's space, to answer your first question. And I'm doing great. I've got 2 healthy kids. I've got a wife I love, a job I love. The Yankees are red hot. The Knicks might be in the middle of a renaissance. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Giants, I don't know. We can talk about that too. We'll see. But I'm good, man. I'm good. Thank you for asking.
You seem good, and your wife is even better and amazing. And it's fun to see you in that place for folks that are watching on video, because it feels very Today Show-ish. It's like some nice morning show kind of colors, right? But not your yellow and white. I tried to find my Willie Geist, cup. The
you have a mug? I hope you do.
I do, but I got to be honest with you. Like the only thing I've gotten from MSNBC of value in the last 20 years is a shitload of mugs. And because as you know, they don't pay me. A lot of folks think I'm rich because I'm on MSNBC all the time. So it's somewhere in a box, and I'm sorry I haven't been rocking.
That's okay. No, I just want to make sure you had one. If you can't
and
find
I have a lot
of
a lot of mugs of shows that have since been canceled, right? At your network and many others.
Those are the best ones. Those are collector's items. Like, oh,
I have some original Daily Show mugs and Colbert Show season 1. I think I got a mug. But yours is very strong. It's
big.
Very hefty, strong, well designed.
Yeah, it's that Sunday Today mug. It's funny. We started to notice totally organically on like Instagram and Facebook, people on Sunday mornings, we didn't like put a call out, like, show us your mug. They'd show, hey, we're ready for the show. And we started to see so many of them. We're like, oh, maybe this is a thing. We created a segment at the end of the show. We do like 8 or 10 of them. And it is unbelievable how it's the #1 selling thing in the NBC store, like more than SNL and Fallon and all that. Who knows why, but it is. And we get them from, I trekked up to Kilimanjaro. You can only take so much in your pack. And one of the things I brought was the mug, or I'm on a cruise, or I'm, at this temple, or this wonder of the world, or the pyramids. It's incredible. So it's become a thing. And what I love about it is that it just totally happened organically. And now people send them from all over the world.
It's kind of like a Flat Stanley thing.
It is.
And our shared friend, Aaron Menken, American hero, incredible father also, used to have a stuffed animal that was like a Stars and Stripe, I think, stuffed animal that he would take with him everywhere.
Yes.
He would take pictures and send it to his kids. So he could say, hey, here's where I am. Look, you guys are with me. Look where the little guy is going.
I love it.
And it's a really good mug. The only mug that's better built than that one is the FBI mug that I got.
Oh,
it just has a good feel to it.
I think that the FBI mug probably wins, but you can
Yeah,
alternate, go back and forth between them.
I will. Thank you. Speaking of alternation or alternating, let's go back to the the atmosphere in America. Can I ask you to get like a little heavy for a second?
Yeah.
Like I think about this every time I go on TV. I've talked to folks about this when we go on TV about the impact that our tone has and that our example has in a time when our kids feel the stress. And there's a lot of negative examples of leadership in the media, especially and in
Yeah.
public. Can you talk about your approach, Willie? I know your father had a tremendous influence on you, but do you have values that you live by for the show or for yourself publicly that convey this positive energy that is you're kind of like America's favorite cool dad, right? And you really are, right? And you are pretty cool. And I'm sure your kids don't think you're
No,
cool.
yeah, I was gonna
People think
say
you're right.
they would dispute that when I try to drop some of their slang in there or like sing along to a 21 Savage song. They're like, don't do that.
Yeah,
But
but you're also doing LL Cool J on like hip hop.
see, that's cool for us from 1987. To them,
Yeah.
it's okay.
So where does it come from, man? Do you think about it when you go on the air, and or where do you think those values come from? And now that you're a father, and you know not just your kids are watching, but my kids, the little kids are watching, and a lot of folks are watching, and they're also looking to you as kind of a safe place where they trust you, they trust your tone, they trust your content. In a time where there doesn't feel like a lot of things they trust, and they go to you on a Sunday morning, right? Which is kind of like personal time. Can you talk about how you approach that and how it's come together?
Yeah, well, I think I would separate from my weekday job, which is on Morning Joe, which I love and have been doing for 17 years, which is we are in it every morning for 4 hours, 6 to 10. And by it, I mean the politics, the muck, the campaign, the ugliness, the rhetoric, all of that. That's during the week. And then on Sunday, which gives me such great balance in my life, it is positive, but I don't ever want it to be positive in a Pollyannish way. Like, don't pay attention to that stuff. Everything's going to be okay, because I think there is some of that on TV. I just want to remind people actually of the greatness of who we are, actually of the greatness of our country. And, I have a long sit down conversation with somebody every week, and that's a little bit of an escape. This week on Father's Day, it's John Bon Jovi. I went down to his house in Jersey. I'm a Jersey guy, as you know. So, it was like a pilgrimage down to Bon Jovi's house. So that's an escape, but it's also hopefully a meaningful and smart telling of the person's story where they offer some wisdom. And from there, we get into, stories about people doing things in the country that are happening much more than you would think if you only watched the news or looked at social media, and you would think we all are yelling at each other, we're all divided. That exists, of course it does. But as I always tell my kids, there is so much more light than dark in our country. Like, we have them out. Paul McCartney said this. We've got them outnumbered.
Yeah.
We just do. There are more good, and by we, I mean hopefully a decent person, decent people who want good things for their families, who care about their neighbors, who love the country genuinely, not in some gesturing symbolic way, but actually want to preserve everything that's great about the country, the kind of things you fought for. So I want to present a vision of our country that is, I guess, balanced, not just positive for the sake of being positive, but another segment we have is a life well lived. And it's an obituary, not of the most famous person who died, but of someone who you maybe never heard of, who did something heroic or invented something that you know of, but didn't know that there was a man or a woman behind it, or someone who created some incredible piece of art or whatever. Just that there are all these great people in this country every day doing great things. And so I don't set out with the objective of being positive. I set out with the objective on that show of just telling a fuller picture of who we are and where we are, and reminding us that despite the one dad who does wander on the field, and I see that in AAU basketball with my son. Wow.
Yeah.
I can't believe some of the behavior that, generally speaking, when we stand on the sidelines of our kids' games, it's neighborly and it's friendly, and it's, I'm going to help you out. All right, you're bringing the snacks this week, I'll drive your kid to the next game. That's who we really are in church and all the places that we all go. So I think I don't want to say, yes, I try to be positive. I just want to tell a fuller picture. And on Morning Joe, honestly, in the politics of it, I just honestly try to be fair. And I think for my role, first of all, my my nature is not to be screaming and have my hair on fire all the time. I try to be even keeled in life, and hopefully that comes across on TV. And there are enough people with hot takes and strong opinions that you don't need me sort of playing a part of that. I try to inject fact and fairness and say, is this a part of a narrative or is this real? And if it is, let's dig deeper and tell the truth about it. And just honestly, part of the job now, in a way that it wasn't as much, but it's been accelerated over the last few years, it's just reminding people what's true. A politician just said a thing that is not true. That didn't happen, or that is not the correct statistic. Here's what's really happening. So it's a long way of saying, just, I would say, fairness and sort of a broader picture of who we are as a country.
Yeah, I think that is a great refinement of the way I positioned it. I mean, even thinking about it, positive isn't really right. It's nice and neighborly is right, and respectful and measured, thoughtful, right? And also, I want to talk about the nice part, because you're a nice guy. Anybody who knows you knows you're a nice guy. You do a ton of charity work. You give back to the community. You're a very generous mentor and friend. And I think that undoubtedly fuels your success too. And I think people need to know that, especially young people. You know, people want to sit down with you because they like you. They know you're a nice guy. They know you're going to give them a fair deal if you sit down for a tough interview. But there's also patriotism. You are talking about patriotism without deliberately saying patriotism. And we're also coming up on July 4th. We've got the first debate coming in just a couple weeks, where patriotism is going to be kind of ripped apart again and even redefined. Can you talk about patriotism right now and how you think about that, and specifically about Trump and Biden as people that you have to cover, but are also, role models, for better or worse, for some people and for this country, and who are fathers, right? And how they convey themselves, and how you talk to even your kids about that, right? About how we can navigate as dads and moms and parents all of this mess and still keep that neighborly attitude and patriotism and kind of a core that can guide us through it.
I do. I think about patriotism a lot, and especially now, and I'd be interested to hear what you think about it, which is, in some ways, it's patriotism lately, especially, has become like a political cudgel, right? Donald Trump calls anyone who follows him patriots. You're a patriot because you follow me. Well, that's not patriotism. Following a person, it's believing in the ideals of a country. And I'm an old-fashioned patriotism guy. Like, the D-Day anniversary a couple of days ago just crushes me. And I think about those guys, and I see those 99, 100-year-olds on stage, and I think about they're doing exactly what you did, which is, you saw a country under attack. You saw a country that was scared, and you, Paul, and those guys were the ones who picked up a sack and got on a boat or a plane and went to fight the fight so the rest of us could be free. Like that, I've been to D-Day a few times. I took my kids there a couple summers ago, just so they can see and appreciate the sacrifice. So that kind of stuff. I mean, at the Yankee game, when we do God Bless America, still gets me.
Yeah.
My kids will always take off their hats and hold their hand over their heart, like all that stuff. But that is, in some ways, the easy part of patriotism. That's like the symbolic stuff. Now we find ourselves maybe fighting for the kind of patriotism that we've taken for granted, which is that the elections are fair, that we treat our opponents with some level of respect, even when it's been ugly in the past. If you lose, you shake your hands. I mean, I always talk about, we're a good game country. At the end of the game, when your sons lose a game, no matter how close it was or how bad that call the ump made at home plate was, you line up after the game, you say good game, and then you go play the next game the next day. And we're losing a little of that very clearly. And so I think the hard work of patriotism, not just the flag waving and bumper sticker patriotism, I think we've had to rededicate ourselves to that and think through what it means what do our institutions mean? Are they strong enough to hold when people are pushing and bending and testing their bounds? Are they going to bend back? Are they going to push? Are they going to hold? And for the most part, they have, but they are being tested again. So it's a weird thing when you ask about the kids, and you'll see this too, which is, this is the world they've grown up in. I mean, it's been almost a decade of this kind of constant daily combat, and that's all they know. And so they're growing up in a world where there is a true fight for the heart of who we are, and a fight to preserve the kind of patriotism that really matters. I love all the stuff that makes me weepy. I feel like I'm an old man when I think about all the people who've sacrificed for this country and how great we've been and how far we've come. But the hard work of preserving what's great about this country actually is it continues now, and maybe it's a more difficult fight than it's been in a long time.
Mm.
What do you think? I mean, I'm curious what you think.
I think that's true, buddy. And I think that's why they need you, right? I think too many people forget the kids are watching. And in the military, you know, my kids know leaders eat last, right? And my 5-year-old, I didn't plan it this way. His favorite song is a national anthem, and he's 5 years old. He looks around and says, "Who doesn't have their hat?" And he screams his little heart out. But it's also because it's a sense of community.
Yeah.
I think he feels that at the Yankee games, and he feels that at sports. And I think we have to remember that our kids, especially in our country, is looking for that community, especially after COVID and especially after division.
Yes.
But they rally around leaders. And you are, I'm going to come back to you. You are so important because there are people that are respected. And, you know, I think back to someone like Russert, right, who everybody respected. And I think there's kind of a mantle that gets passed. And I think you're picking up a lot of it in a way that is really, really important, especially because you talk about culture and sports and other things that aren't just about politics. And you talk about America. Right. It's like a conversation about America. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's soft. Sometimes it's in between. But you're driving that conversation. I know we got a couple minutes left. I want to ask you, related to that, you're still going to tell me you're not going to run for president for any office ever, right? Mayor?
No.
Okay, so I want to make a
too
case.
Much. Yeah.
Joe Biden is struggling right now. We all know that. And Donald Trump, you know, if either one of them picked you as VP, they would do much better. Okay.
I think there are many better candidates. I would start with you, the other person.
No, I'm not. But let's talk about a realistic one. And I can't have you on the show without talking about him. He's been on the show. He's coming on again soon. Our friend Wes Moore.
Yeah.
We've been seeing this freight train coming for a long time. It's picking up steam. I'm going to ask you a straight up question. What's the over under on when he's in the White House?
Well, I don't know if he's in the White House, but when he runs, I mean, let me just say this, 2028, there is a deep bench of Democrats, many of whom are just kind of waiting their turn. I think Governor Moore will be in that conversation along with Josh Shapiro and Gretchen Whitmer and Gavin Newsom. I'm leaving people out. But there is a deep Democratic bench waiting for its turn. But I mean, actually this morning, Governor Moore was on our show, was on Morning Joe, having opened the canal into Baltimore in 2 months. And I think what he's doing really well, and we've, you know, full disclosure, we've known him forever. Wes and I lived in the same building in New York City 15 years ago when our kids were first born, running up and down the hallways together with our apartment doors open, going in and out of each other's apartments. So, but he has done, I think, a great job of just being an effective leader, which I think people are longing for. And I mean, this is a case in that point. And I mentioned to him, remember last year when that I-95 bridge in Pennsylvania collapsed after the fire, the gas tanker, and they had it open in 12 days. And through all the cynicism and pessimism about government, people are like, oh, we can do stuff. And I think that channel in Baltimore is similar. So he's on top of everything else he brings to the table, being the extraordinary leader and speaker and veteran that he is, and all the things he's done with his life, poverty fighter. I think he's just proving like that head down, effective leadership style that will serve him well in his future.
I think you're right. If he's on the bench, he's Jasson Dominguez. Okay.
Ooh,
because
the Martian.
He is so much better than everybody else on the bench. And he's just waiting for his shot. And that shot might come if the Yankees get rid of Verdugo, or if, God forbid, Aaron Judge gets hurt.
Don't even say it.
It might happen if Biden loses. It might happen if Biden is incapacitated or dies. It might happen if there's a changing of the guard. I think everybody's assuming that this is a 2028 thing. And I personally, I think it's an okay conversation to have. I'm not betting on Trump and Biden both being healthy enough to serve 4 years from now, right? Even through the next 4 years. And I think that kind of a disruption could really open the field for a unique, once-in-a-generation talent like our friend Wes and who I hope would pick you as a running mate. I think that would be pretty.
You're
that
really
would be a
pushing
very
this.
popular, very handsome, very, very exciting campaign. I mean, that would get people excited, man.
No, I'm going more Rykoff. I think
Yeah.
two good-looking bald guys
Well,
who know about service.
I
And
am an independent, so he'd have to cross some party lines in order to get me on there.
that might help him. That might
Well,
help. You know, it's funny asking about patriotism. One of the things Wes did really well in his campaign was to talk about patriotism and say, you will not lecture me about what patriotism
That's right.
is. You will not, unless you were with me jumping out of those planes over Afghanistan. You will not lecture me about service and all. So I think he's not alone in this, fills an important pull. And you've talked about this a lot, an important place to have veterans serving, which is they actually know about service. It's not some performative thing that they're really excited to go to Washington and be famous and have these jobs and all the things that so many politicians seem to be obsessed, more interested in their podcast than actually making legislation or getting on certain news channels. I think having veterans in service and Wes being near the top of that list is so important for that very reason. And he's talked really eloquently about sort of taking back patriotism, like the flag in some way. The American flag has now been associated with a certain party or a faction of the party. No. That belongs to all of us. We all get that if we believe in this big experiment that we're running in America.
I love that you're running experience. There's a deeper conversation too, not just about patriotism, but about manhood or fatherhood, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a conversation that you're talking about. I'm talking about. Scott Galloway is talking about. So many other people are talking about. I think it's really, really important and confusing and urgent. And I hope that both presidential candidates, especially Biden, will talk more about that. Especially now in a week where Biden's defending his son, who was just convicted, right? We're talking about this in real time. I've got to let you go. Final question, because you kind of punted on the over-under on Wes Moore thing.
I'll go 28. I'll go 28.
Okay, 28 it is. 28. Okay. Last question. What are you doing for Father's Day?
So for Father's Day, it's really up to my kids. So maybe it'll be a surprise. But the truth is, we're going on a trip. We're leaving the night of Father's Day. My cousin is getting married in Italy. Right? I guess awesome. I guess that's a thing you can do, is get married in Italy. So the kids and I and my wife will be on a plane flying to Italy to my cousin's wedding, which is a pretty damn good Father's Day gift, don't you think?
It is. Didn't you get married in Puerto Rico?
Got married in Puerto Rico 21 years ago.
To get married either.
21 years ago, Memorial Day weekend. 21 years.
Well, congratulations to you and to your wife and to your family. Congratulations to America on getting to spend so much time with you. I really appreciate your friendship. I appreciate your example. Really, most of all, my friend, we need you more than ever before. And you do it every day. It's a grind. It's not all glory and celebrities. And you do a really, really good job. And you always do it the right way, man. And the country needs you now more than ever. So I wish you a very happy Father's Day. And I thank you for setting an example for all of us, being a parental role model, if you will, and also reminding us all what patriotism is really all about. But thank you, my friend, for all you do.
Thank you, Paul, and a happy Father's Day to you. And thank you, honestly, all these years, your guidance, as you know, you have steered me in the right direction on many things we talk about every day. You'll let me know, hey, have you thought about this side of this? And it's important to get people you trust, to people who you know are operating in good faith, to people who are smart, to people who've been there and been in the fight. So I really, really value your voice and always have. And I wish you a super happy Father's Day, man.
Thank you, buddy. We got to keep talking about all of it and talking about Ukraine. We didn't get to that today, but you guys have been doing a great job of covering that too. And maybe we'll see Wes in the American League Conference Championship, right?
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Right. All right.
Sure.
And you can invite him to your box at Yankee Stadium, and he can invite you to his box at Camden Yards, and we can celebrate a Yankees World Series at the end of this year, man.
First, I got to find somebody with a box, and then we can do that. We can pull off that deal.
I think you know a guy. All right, man. Thank you so much.
Paul.
Happy Father's Day.
See you, man. Same to you. Happy Father's Day.